In the beginning. Well, there is no beginning, but the eclipse seems like a really good place to look at it. Here are these smiling faces of a great camaraderie we had in college, going out into the natural wonder of Maine, the islands, the ocean, the mountains. In fact, just about everything was photographic. And I was armed with a new camera and loved taking pictures endlessly, every day, all the time, of everybody. And they often wondered why. But it was the eclipse of beauty upon us. This great moment of youth was here for now and soon gone into years and tears and children and wealth and tragedy. Of course, beautiful is one of those terms that is overused, at least for the past 30 or 40 years. Beautiful was not ever mentioned, period. But I am a photographer, and the landscape was my subject, and the people in the landscape were my chosen subjects. There was only to record the spectacularness of life, and that was what I was in college for. Or at that time, I began my journey in photography. This is not the beginning of my pictures. This is merely only a time of life with my college friends, all of whom I've gone on to be whatever they are and are not really important to the story. The story is what I see, what I saw, how I learned to see quickly with my camera. And the conquered nature connection was because of Emerson's definition of nature last century, well, 2 centuries ago. And that sort of played on my life because of influences of Thoreau and my grandmother, who was a photographer. So it became a passage for expressing my reality. And it's kind of inverted because it isn't a construct of intelligence or thinking, but it is a capturing of moments, all of which are the same. They are like a leaf blowing through the streets. It is just time, just moments. And it adds up to only now. Where am I now? Where am I at this moment, trying to understand pictures? Doors of perception, doorways to perception. The capturing life was pretty simplistic, and at the same time the war photography and the exploitation of every view of life was being made by other photographers and other television, whatever. But for me, it was perhaps more a love story. My favorite buddies in college, they were my targets, and the background was this heavenly landscape which we allowed ourselves to see and to get into. And after a while, I found myself going back to Concord to be a photographer, and leaving it all this behind, in a manner of speaking. Never to have left it behind, but to have put these pictures away for many, many, many years, and only am just pulling them out from the college days to now. I loved seeing the main landscape. I loved every aspect of what I was doing, except for the grasping of material success, which was another kind of a construct of thinking and focus and goal achievements. Fun was what it was all about, and beauty. Ultimately, it was the time. The time was 60s, the counterculture, the war in Vietnam, the college was located in a very remote corner, way out of the mainstream of America. And it just happened to be where I was. But sooner or later, the aspects of reality fell heavier and heavier, and traveled into the city and to other aspects of life that were not quite something you would see in Maine. You would, Third Avenue with 6 lanes of trucking traffic going south was not looking across the straits up in Penobscot, Maine, or in the backcountry roads with my buddies. We were just looking at what a wonderful world it was in derelict Maine, which is what Maine was, derelict. But we loved it. And so gradually we twisted our college years to an end, corked them, put them on the shelf. And for me that was just more picture taking, seeing the world around, finding the answer in what everybody was doing around me, or what I began to do. And at that time, I began to take a trip to travel across country with a buddy, and these pictures are more of the same. When do you wear out your experience of seeing? Perhaps never. At least I hope never for me. At least never in this lifetime. At this point, substantiating the physical aspect of the country seemed like a pretty good idea. My draft situation had been deferred, and with my friend, who was also deferred, we drove while the American military destroyed Southeast Asia. There was so much more beauty of a different kind out in the country, and the camaraderie in the moment never stopped, and the vision of winding roads and tall mountains and every possible kind of experience as we scoured over the Rocky Mountains into the West Coast. This was my moment. This was sitting on my butt taking pictures. And finally, ultimately, what does it add up to but time, moments with friends, and beautiful, eye-dazzling things. In the Dunes, a great Japanese film, with my dog, the odalisque. Sailing in the bay, finding a place to be under the Golden Gate of life. Any messages?